It's a new week and welcome to the 360 show. South Africa beat England twice on one day. What a fantastic occasion for the Proteas and the Springboks over there in Mumbai and Paris. And I'm a happy man. But let's discuss more cricket things in this week's 360 show.
We're watching a very high-class player.
This is when you know AB de Villiers is at his best.
India find themselves on top of the log. They are unbeatable, playing incredible cricket at the 2023 World Cup, finding form at exactly the right time. The tournament is still long, so the question will be, can they maintain it? But all things look really good. They're firing on all cylinders, and you see there Mohammad Shami being quoted. He has no regrets sitting out the earlier games in the World Cup, and I mean, it's easy to say now after picking up 5, but that's just a great example of a team man. His quote said, "They are your teammates, and if they are doing well, then you should be supporting them." And that's a very nice quote, nice thing to say, and that is the ultimate sportsmanship within a team. You need that in a team environment. You need players who feel the team is bigger than them, and I really enjoyed that. And then there was big drama around Virat Kohli. A lot of people saying that he was batting for his 100th, not taking the singles at the back end there. And very interesting comments. If Kohli is turning down singles with 7 wickets in hand and 10 overs left purely so he can get a century, I'd bowl 5 wides down the leg side if I'm a Bangladesh bowler. No more nonsense from any cricketer, big or small, about I play for the team. Now, Peter, I appreciate and respect your comments, but I do not agree with you at all. The thing is, and the fact of the matter is, Virat worked really hard to get to that milestone. He didn't waste any balls. The bowling was pretty poor, wide down leg side, which wasn't called ultimately, which I enjoyed from the umpire. But what it comes down to, you get a new batter in there, he faces 2 dot balls, 3 dot balls, gets a single. You actually end up spending more time at the wicket and wasting more deliveries. Virat ended up taking a risk to get to his century, hitting a 6 over long on. And that's what it comes down to. He was waiting for the right delivery. If you break down those last few deliveries, I think his strike rate would be comfortably over 100 in any way. And the right decision was made. I'm also in the same court. Guys shouldn't be playing for milestones. I never did. So talking about risks and Virat hitting a 6 of that final delivery in that innings to get to 100, which was fantastic to see. Let's talk about Captain Fantastic. That is Rohit Sharma, taking risks for his team up front, having absolutely no fear. Let's have a look at this incredible stat. Smashing it early, most sixes in the first 10 overs of men's ODIs in 2023 among the World Cup teams. Team India with 46 sixes. Rohit Sharma with 35 of the 46. And look at that. Australia 34, South Africa 19, England 8. Oh my goodness, that is just an incredible stat. And it shows you what kind of aura Rohit Sharma has up front with that new ball, that presence, that he demands respect from the bowlers because he reminds me a bit of Matthew Hayden back in the day, really just occupying the crease and hitting the ball hard and far and high. Very intimidating, I would say, for all teams for the rest of this World Cup. Rohit really giving India a great start. And not only a great start, a quick start. He's fantastic, been fantastic in this World Cup. He's been fantastic for the Mumbai Indians as captain, and he's starting to show that in Indian colours now, which is very promising for India's future, especially in the near term for this World Cup to lift that trophy. And then let's quickly talk about this stat: the fastest to 2,000 ODI runs by innings. Shubman Gill, 38 innings to get to 2,000 ODI runs. Now, I'm certainly not going to feature there. I had a really slow start in my ODI career. I would much rather have liked to be out of the blocks as quick as Shubman Gill. But there we see Hashim Amla with 40 innings. And I very clearly remember that, watching his first 40 ODI innings, getting to 2,000 runs. It was literally some of the best batting I've ever seen in my life. I was in awe. My mouth was having it open. I couldn't believe that someone could get there that quickly, and there we have Shubman Gill beating that. It's always going to have to be an opening bat, let me tell you that, to have that consistency, to break 40. We see Kevin Peterson, who's a middle order batter there, Babar maybe, but number 3 sort of still counts as the top 3. Let me rather say top 3. As a number 4, 5, 6 batter, it's going to be really difficult to get that because you sometimes finish games coming in and the team needs 10 runs to win, and that's all they get for the day. So you understand, and that counts as an innings for a middle order batter. Anyway, congratulations, Shubman. Fantastic achievement. Never thought that 40 of Hashim Amla would be broken. That's enough about India. They're well on track and looking really good for this year's World Cup. Moving on to Team Afghanistan, the Afghan dream. They've been on fire, living the dream, and all dreams seem to come true for them, except for they need to start winning against the minor teams as well, moving on with this World Cup. If they want to stand any chance of qualifying for the knockouts, they need to beat the minor teams as well, and maybe one or two more upsets. But the hard work's been done. They've beaten Pakistan and they've beaten England. I thought beating England would be the only one and the only upset for this tournament for Afghanistan, but look at them go. Beating Pakistan in Chennai, and Team Pakistan decided to bat first after winning the toss, which I felt, it's easy to say now, but I felt it was a mistake. If you looked at the game that India played there, they chased at night. The wickets seemed very slow. It didn't take more turn, and ultimately the Pakistan bowling attack were not as effective as usual. So that was a bit of a problem to them. I feel they have one of the best seam attacks in this tournament, and knowing that the wicket was going to get slower, I just thought maybe it would have been best to chase. But yes, it's a difficult one because they're also not that comfortable with their batting lineup at the moment. Not everyone seems to be in good form in the Pakistan team. So ultimately, maybe that's why they decided to get runs on the board. But what a fantastic win for Afghanistan. And we'll just quickly cover a couple of posts on Twitter or on X. History for Afghanistan cricket. Afghanistan beat Pakistan for the first time in their ODI cricket history. And this also their highest successful chase in World Cup history. And then moving on to Saj Sadiq there, Babar Azam being quoted, our spinners bowl 4 good balls and then 2 bad balls that go for 4. The margin of error is low and there's no consistency. So we can't build pressure, and that's been lacking. So it's the perfect storm that hit Pakistan there. A slow wicket that got even slower. So the seamers were less effective, and then the spinners being out of form. But the slow wicket really puts emphasis on a spinner's control. The best spinners in the world still seem to find that small margin of error, that little patch they need to hit in order to ask questions. The slower the wicket, the harder for the spinner, because anything slightly short sits up and you can get it away. Anything slightly full, the batter gets on top of it. So generally you need to be a little bit faster through the air and be very, very accurate. And the Pakistan spinners not helping there. They were supposed to hold it together and bring the run rate down to ultimately give the seamers a chance to break through again, but they couldn't do any of that, and it was just the perfect storm that hit them there. And then Babar being quoted saying, we are not clicking together as a unit. When we bat well, we don't bowl well, and vice versa. I know the feeling. I've been there before. It's very frustrating, and we can go back before the World Cup with the whole build-up, the visas going wrong, them not getting the warm-up prep that they wanted, not playing very well in the Asia Cup. All these things sort of built up and ultimately starting to explode now in their faces, which is not ideal. There is time still for Pakistan. It's not all doom and gloom, but it's not looking good. And then history at the Chepak Stadium there for Afghanistan, chasing 286. That's the highest run chase ever for Afghanistan in an ODI. What a fantastic achievement. As you see, the 276 against the UAE in 2014 dates back a long time ago, and they certainly brought their best for this year's World Cup. It's fantastic for cricket to see the minor teams competing, and not only competing, beating some of the best teams in the world. So the Afghan dream lives on, and hopefully there will be more good cricket for the Afghanistan team, not against the Proteas, please. Moving on to the Proteas then, and also South Africa. The Proteas seem to be in a really good place, playing Bangladesh today at the Wankhede Stadium. I'm not going to delve in it too deep. I'm not going to cover live today. But for me, there's only one team today at the Wankhede Stadium, purely because it's a good cricket wicket. It's a ground that gives you value for your shots. I feel the Proteas should be too good for Bangladesh. And let's hope these comments of mine age well and not backfire. But yes, I see South Africa getting their 4th win out of 5 games against Bangladesh, and that'll be fantastic. That'll put them in a great position. It's a must-win game because you can't afford to lose against teams that you should be beating, right? We've won a couple of games where I thought it was 50-50 against Australia. South Africa beat England twice. That all happened last weekend. I was very nervous. You saw me in that 360 Live show being very nervous, not being able to breathe properly. That was because it was a huge weekend for us. I knew the Proteas just had to set it up for the Springboks as well, which they did fantastically well. As we see, a quick quote, let's cover a bit of the game from Adam Markram. Slightly surprised with England's decision at the toss. We know they like chasing. We'd have batted first. So, yeah, very interesting from England there. To me, a general rule in 50 over cricket, playing in India, specifically in Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, places like that, you don't even look at the wicket. You just decide to bat first. The effect the heat and the sun and the dehydration have on the players, and that showed in the England team. I mean, half of them were cramping. Butler as wicketkeeper were literally, I could see him not being able to show energy out there, and it's got a huge effect on a team. I know maybe they felt the wicket will become a bit better in the evening and they back their batters, but if half the batters are cramping and are exhausted, I mean, they're not going to be able to score big hundreds. I felt that in the T20 game playing against Mumbai Indians. It was a day game, and ultimately got a lot cooler in the late afternoon into the evening. But for 20 overs, I had my gloves on, and after about 10 overs, I couldn't appeal anymore. I couldn't move around. I was walking. I had no interest in the game because my brain was literally fried, and I was so dehydrated. You stop thinking, and I felt that's what happened to the English bowlers and the fielding team, where with Heinrich Klaassen, he could just put it all out there and ended up in an ice bath after 50 overs, chilling and watching the rest of the game. So, yes, very interesting decision there from England. South Africa having a fantastic game, and it was a must-win. It was a big win for the Proteas, really putting up their hands once again in that World Cup. And then the Springboks going on to do something special after that. They've now beaten England 3 times in 2007, 2019, and 2023. 3 times in the World Cups. Big upsets for the English team. And they'll have to get back home, unfortunately. And they're actually playing in the bronze medal clash, which is actually a bit worse than flying home, I think. I can't think of anything worse than having to stay there and having to play for a bronze medal when you just want to get back home and sort of think what happened. There's just a tweet from Supersport: to the north, to the south, South Africa, hey tada. South Africa to England, no. Bit of tongue in the cheek there, to the north, to the south. But yeah, great weekend of sport for South Africans. We were all very chuffed, and I will be finding myself in Paris this week. I'm going to support the Springboks. We're playing against the All Blacks. It's not going to be easy, but we've got to back our boys to pull it off. Both the Proteas and the Springboks. Keep going, guys. Let's move on to AB Reacts then. I love this. Is the ODI format dying? Very dramatic, I know, but it's certainly a concern for me and a lot of cricket lovers around the world to see empty stands in this year's Cricket World Cup. I feel it's unacceptable. I don't know what's going on and why it's happening, but there's definitely a reason for concern in the cricketing world. I'll be covering some posts, and I also want to hear your inputs on what you think. Is the ODI format dying? Should we just be playing T20 cricket and Test cricket? Or is there still room for both ODIs and T20s, and we just may be missing a trick? I don't know. I would like to hear your thoughts. Put your comments down in the descriptions box. I'll be running a poll to see what you guys think. Is there room for both formats, T20s and ODIs? Should we scrape ODIs, or should we just play T20s? Let me know. Let's start with Joe Root. He says it shouldn't be down to it's bringing the most money for the sport. It should be down to what people want to watch and what's going to engage the next generation of players. I agree with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that statement. At the bottom, he says, yeah, it doesn't make me change my mind about the 100. It makes me question whether we should be playing more 50 over cricket instead of T20s or the Blast or all the other formats around the world. Interesting take there. I enjoyed his first comment there, where it's got to be about the fans and the growth of the game. What brings the most players and people and audience and crowds to engage with this incredible sport of ours? And I feel ODIs are a bit of a worry at the moment. We also see some of the stats here. A record 4.3 crore fans tune in on Disney with that Virat Kohli 100. But that was a once-off. That is the problem. It hasn't been the case for all the games in this ODI Cricket World Cup. Where Mark Nicholas thinks we believe strongly that ODIs should be World Cups only. I'm going to stop right there because I just simply cannot agree with that. If you want to go that route, I feel ODIs needs to move on. It's just how it is. I don't see only World Cups for ODI cricket in the future. So I do not agree with Mark Nicholas there. No disrespect. And then we see Quinton de Kock here as well. I'm not going to speak on behalf of everyone, but for him, he's pretty tired. And that's what he says. He's obviously moving on. But a lot of youngsters still coming through from school who would love to play this format. I highly recommend that they find a way to keep it going because there are a lot of guys with big ambitions, etc., etc. So a lot of different opinions. And finally, George Dobell, chances of this being the final 50 over World Cup may have increased a bit. At the bottom, you see there from the cricketer. Cricketer understands that the ICC plans to stage meetings in November to discuss the future of 50 over cricket. So yes, spectator numbers are down. People are concerned. I am concerned. I watched a few live games in this tournament, and when the cameras just flow through the crowds, I mean, they don't because there are no crowds, except for when India play maybe. But this is a cricket World Cup. It should be the biggest occasion in every 4 years for any cricketer or any cricket lover. And unfortunately, the numbers are down and it's not looking good. Just to come back to Joe Root's comment then, having a look at how many games teams have played from that last World Cup into this World Cup. India 93 were the most, and there you see England on 68, still more than South Africa and some other teams. But generally speaking, I don't think that is as bad as Joe Root is making it out to be. I mean, India playing 93 ODIs in 4 years. That's not too bad. Even South Africa with 63 in 4 years. Yes, we've added the World Cup games to that, but ultimately there's absolutely no excuse for struggling with form. You had plenty of time with a build-up, with a camp, with all sorts of warm-up games, and I don't think it should be an excuse. But very interesting times in the cricketing world. The ODI format has been under pressure for quite a number of years now. What is the right answer? I'm not too sure. There are lots of different ways to counter this issue. I think of rugby, who has the 80-minute format, but there's also a sevens format. We only play with 7 players. It's much shorter. They play right throughout the year in multiple tournaments around the world, in South Africa, in Vegas. They go to Singapore. They go to Dubai. They play in France, all around the world. And ultimately, it's a point system who gives you the winner after a full year of playing tournaments. So I don't know what the right answer is. I would love to hear your ideas. All I know is it can't just be a T20 World Cup every year. This is now, the topic now is for, let's say, ODIs disappear. What will the perfect format be to engage the fans, to grow our game, to make it an even better game than it was in the past? Because that needs to be the goal, not how much money we can make as a business. How are we going to grow this game and make it live on forever? I just think that the World Cup, and if you have a T20 World Cup, it needs to be something that really pulls the players out, that brings out the best in them for a long period of time. There's lots of different ideas. I think of the Premier League, I think of the NFL and the NBA tournaments that are played around the world. There are different structures, different formats that work. And I think it's time for change. Hopefully the ICC will make the right decision. So let's move on to the 360 quiz. There was a bit of a trick question last week. I told you guys, I warned you guys, and I hope you got it right. But which team won silver the last time cricket was played at the Olympics? And the answer is France, the host nation. They are the only other team to play. So yes, finally Great Britain gets to, or England gets to win something on the 360 show. Luckily South Africa wasn't there. All jokes aside, in this week's quiz, I spoke about this game in the latest 360 Live. I played in a memorable match that took place on this day in 2015, October 25. What was the match? And the hint is, I've never been more scared facing a bowler, and his name is Virat Kohli. I faced him on the day. I remember watching the ball more closely than ever because I couldn't just get out of him. Imagine that. I would sit with that. I would be stuck with that for the rest of my life. Thank goodness. I ended up batting pretty well and got him away. That's the end of the 360 show. Thank you very much for joining me. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, follow me in socials because you will not want to miss my trip to France in Paris. I'll be getting some content over there. I'm not sure if it's going to be a live show or the 360 show itself, but I will be sharing some content with you guys. So keep an eye out for that. And thank you very much for joining me on the 360 show.